All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We're recording late on Sunday night. Bills Chiefs has just ended. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the other divisional round matchups, the openers for the conference title games next week, and then close out with a little Australian Open. As Svitolina looks like she might be done, Drew. Down to nothing, medical timeout. Not good. We'll close out with that and then some of your NBA. But let's start with Bills Chiefs, given that it is so fresh in the memory. Certainly the biggest non-Super Bowl event game that I can remember, just in terms of just how it was capturing the zeitgeist in real time. Allen v. Mahomes, Brady v. Manning-esque, and then lives up to the billing in terms of quality for three quarters and then drama for all four. I don't really know what happened towards the end, but what did you make of it, and how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Sides were 3-1 for me, so I'm pretty stoked to get those home. And it's better to be lucky than good. I felt pretty lucky to get Lions home, considering it came down to that 2-point conversion attempt for them covering 6.5. I guess people probably had 6 that would have pushed, but still is it was sweatier than it had to be. And yeah, I mean, Packers got to be sick to their stomachs that they didn't find a way to win that one. The cover was delightful. Houston felt pretty happy to be there in the second half, not really putting much of an effort on for offense, but that's okay. But yes, the finale of the weekend was the one that really did draw the most attention, and it was compelling. That was as good as you could write them. I thought wide right was a little on the nose for Bills fans to try to rationalize, considering the history of sports in that city. But ultimately, McDermott was kind of the biggest problem for the Bills in terms of, number one, deciding to go for the fake punt when he went for it instead of just putting the ball in the hands of a guy who's having one of his best performances as a pro, and Josh Allen. To that point in the game, I think if you're going to go for it and you have one of the two best quarterbacks on earth, you should just put it in his hands to try to get it. And ultimately got bailed out with the fumble in the end zone. Why Andy Reid decided he needed to see another touch from Mecole Hardman inside of the red zone was kind of a head scratcher. And what do you know? He fumbled again. That was a pretty indefensible call that I still don't understand. The Chiefs really tried to give the Bills lots of latitude, lots of opportunities to come back. And ultimately, I think they came up short because, for whatever it was worth, Josh Allen was not sharp on that final drive, particularly once they crossed midfield. I don't know if he got hit. Something happened to his shoulder where he was a little bit kind of lacking in accuracy, but some of those balls he was throwing to the end zone, he had easy stuff that was right there for the taking that could have continued to matriculate the ball. Instead, they have a couple of clear misses and attempt a longer than necessary field goal in the swirling winds. And the rest is history. So rough way for the Bills season to end, considering how far they came from, the depths of 6-6 to, having decent money line edge in running in this game, and looking unstoppable on offense against the Chiefs defense that we knew had cracks in the run game and looked even worse without Nadi on the field. So it was a little bit shocking that the Chiefs found a way to win here. It felt like they scored every single time they touched the ball outside of the fumble through the end zone. Really the Bills did a nice job of sort of playing keep away and hiding their defense, I thought. But ultimately, in the end, it wasn't going to be enough. You're going to have to score more than 24 points to beat Pat Mahomes. I thought we knew this, guys. And so here we go with, two really compelling handicaps for the championship game weekend.
Indeed. Yeah, on the fake punts, I think I'm in the minority, but I actually don't have an issue with it, given that Kansas City had 10 guys on the field. And so the Bills are effectively at the line. They have 7 guys blocking 6, I think it is what it is. It's just they didn't block it well. Like, they didn't execute the play well. And I get that. I don't know why people take such weird glee in DeMar Hamlin failing. Like, guy came back from the dead. Like, why are we so happy that his play didn't work out well? Because if you bet on other players to win comeback player of the year, like, that award has been voted on. It's done. We don't need to celebrate the miscues of DeMar Hamlin. It's very kind of disturbing. But I agree. It was very uneven from the Bills late. I think what became clear is that they lost too many guys on defense, and it was even the guys that are out there. Like Rasul Douglas wasn't remotely himself. Like that guy was a borderline All Pro, and he's getting targeted over and over again. He just didn't have it physically. Terrell Dodson's not himself. They're like AJ Klein came out of the game, and it's like, oh my god, AJ Klein's out. He wasn't in the NFL like 2 weeks ago, and I think ultimately, if the Bills had won this game, and it feels weird just because kind of the experience of watching the game in the first half, like it felt like the Bills were dominating, but it only felt like that because they were on the field for longer and they were gashing the Chiefs in the run game. But then you take a step back, and at the end of the game, like the Chiefs averaged 7.7 yards per play and the Bills averaged 4.7. And the Bills got turnover luck with the fumble going out of the end zone. And then Josh Allen fumbling in what in real time felt like it was minus 950 that the Chiefs were going to recover, given they so outnumbered the Bills around the ball. And it just felt like the lack of a vertical threat for the Bills and their injuries on defense that they would have had to have stolen it, but they really should have stolen it at the end. I will go to my grave not knowing why Josh Allen didn't just hit Stephon Diggs wide open on the cross or on second down there at the death to get the first down. Instead, he gets greedy and goes for the home run shot in the end zone, and this is the thing with Allen, and this is why I still think he's clearly the second best quarterback in the NFL. Like, I think he's better than Lamar Jackson. I think he's better than Joe Burrow, but I think Mahomes probably makes the right play there in that I think I don't know, you probably look at the win probability stuff, but to me in the moment, I thought that a first down there was probably even more valuable than scoring a touchdown with 1:45 and Mahomes having 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
And so a bit of a mess. And then, yes, very on the nose with wide right. Anything else on Bills Chiefs, or do you want to hit the other game?
I mean, the injuries for the Chiefs moving forward that you have to pay attention to largely on the defensive side of the football. And considering how weak their rush defense looked, I think drawing the Ravens is an unfortunate matchup for that unit. But, I mean, we really haven't mentioned Mahomes, and like he was pretty superlative. Like he didn't make any mistakes. He scrambled when he needed to. That was pretty impactful in the game, it felt like. Isaiah Pacheco ran hard. Travis Kelce, haven't heard and spoken his name quite as often as you would have guessed on a team that's running again to an AFC championship. But, he had some, beautiful mismatches in the game against the Bills. So, yeah, I mean, congratulations to the Chiefs and Mahomes for another, AFC championship game appearance, 6 in a row now, although this one on the road. It didn't really feel like, it felt like they got the Bills' absolute best shot for 3/4 of this game, and still they could have won with margin. So it's tough to beat that team.
Yep, they were the better team. I think the most interesting thing that come out of it is just that this Chiefs offense, after looking so middling, even though statistically it was fine and top 10 offense and right towards the bottom of the top 10, but the past 2 weeks they've just looked so more explosive. Like they absolutely shredded Miami. They could have scored 40 there in the Ice Bowl, and if Hardman doesn't fumble, they get to 34 today, it's like not like the personnel has changed. Like Rashee Rice was really banged up this game. They didn't get much out of him, and it was MVS. And I think these 2 games, albeit against defenses suspect in their own right, given Miami had no pass rushers left, the Bills are really banged up. But certainly does give credence to the idea that Mahomes does actually have a verifiable next level that he gets to in the playoffs. And we'll get the ultimate test of that, given that he gets to play probably the best defense in football in Baltimore. Let's go to that game quickly. Someone who was pretty heavily on Baltimore in the end, given what was out there in the market. People can read between the lines on that. But I didn't feel very good about it when it was 10-all and Fairbairn was lining up to make it 13-10. But after that, I wonder how the game would have broken if Jalen Petrie had picked off Lamar in the end zone to start the second half, which would have made it a completely different game. But ultimately, the Ravens run away with it. I think the takeaway coming out of that game is just like, oh, Baltimore's the best team in football. Like, they looked shaky. They were very, very good, but they looked shaky at times to me.
I still think that every time I watch them. I have no idea how to rate this team, man. I will say that their offense showed some wrinkles that were different than what we saw from a lot of the regular season, which is kind of interesting because if they had like, hey, we know we have some high leverage stuff if Lamar runs, we should just keep that in our back pocket for the playoffs. Like, that's scary because he is certainly still as athletic and as dynamic on the ground as he ever was at any point in his NFL or college career. And it's something to behold. I mean, he was almost 10 yards a clip on the ground in this game with two rushing touchdowns. And it felt like, in particular in the second half when they needed to sustain, those two first, those two touchdown drives. And you're right. If there's a turnover, that definitely tilts things in a different direction for the Texans. But Lamar kind of pushed the buttons he needed to every time it mattered, and it really just felt like the Texans offense was not dealing with the same circumstances. Like they were not dealing with it like that was an elimination game, which felt bizarre. Like a lot of wasted downs by Slowick and company, who were wont to do that all season this year. So a little bit of a frustrating outcome at the end for anyone with points in the Texans, but. I guess you got to upgrade the Ravens a bit. They come out of this game pretty healthy. This is a team that I think you would circle the Mark Andrews news this week and find out if he's going to be available, because he could be, a huge impact, at least if not for the game itself, what the market and the lines are, if he's going to go, then I would expect you see a little bit of a bump in the market on the Ravens. So worth keeping an eye on. Marlon Humphrey, same situation. It was pretty clearly telegraphed he wasn't going to play last week. And now, another week of rest, maybe is a different story there. So I would pay attention to those two injuries certainly this week because they matter. But otherwise, the Texans, I felt like left a lot on the table. And really could have hurt the Ravens in certain parts of the field with a little bit more of an aggressive game plan, and they just elected not to, which was frustrating.
Yeah, and I just like Stroud statistically, like it looks pretty bad, and it looks really bad. I mean, they scored 3 points on offense because they get the Sims 67 punt return gift, but it felt like they were able to move the ball, and Stroud I thought was really good, and there was just some almost moments like he could have hit Robert Woods streaking down the right sideline just before half, which could have easily been a touchdown. It's just like it's a little bit overthrown. And there were just these moments where it just didn't quite happen. And then the result was that Baltimore just capitalized every time. And the one moment where it really could have flipped was Petrie dropping the interception in the end zone. And that was effectively the game. We'll talk about the Ravens in a second when we talk about the AFC title openers, but let's go to the other game on Saturday, which was it's funny, we kind of had two somewhat regulation games in Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Houston, Baltimore, and then two just completely insane games, the other two. And this one I think was kind of more insane than Buffalo, Kansas City, just because of the upset magnitude, kind of potential, everything that was happening, and this Kyle Shanahan's legacy and Brock Purdy completely imploding for 3 quarters. Purdy had like the inverse Josh Allen game where Allen was magnificent for 3 quarters, then kind of shaky for the last. Purdy was extremely shaky. He's terrible for 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters, and then was just lights out on that last drive, made every throw that he needed to. The only incompletion was just a blatant drop from George Kittle. Now, I think most people have come out of that game thinking like, oh, this team is really fragile. I'm not sure that they're going to beat Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. I go the other way, and I think that the league missed its chance to really kill off San Francisco. And my thought on Purdy is that, look, I think Purdy is the 9th, 10th best quarterback in the NFL. And I think that he has a real issue with rain, given that his 2 worst performances outside of the Baltimore game were against Cleveland and Green Bay in rain, where it seemed very clear he just couldn't grip the ball. He's obviously, there's the viral thing of him wiping off his hands mid drop back. And I think that it's really those 2 games and then the Baltimore game where I think confusing defense and a big occasion just kind of rattled him and it snowballed. And I think that he's going to be fine because he plays a pretty mediocre Detroit pass defense at home in 70 degrees and dry conditions. And then he's going to get to play in a dome in the Super Bowl. So I'd be more concerned about San Francisco's defense out of that game than Purdy and their offense. But what's your read on the Niners now?
Yeah, no, the the league missed their chance to kill the Niners. I 100% agree with you. The Packers were something like 85% win probability when they had 1st and 10 on the Niners, 24-yard line with a 4-point lead in the fourth quarter. They put points on the board, either field goal or touchdown on that, especially touchdown on that drive. And, the discourse around Purdy would have been like just so impossibly gross. I would have just, it would have been with that would be the leading every kind of, kind of commentary in the for this week, and then in the offseason talking about the Niners and what are they going to do. The fact that he put together one good drive and that was all they needed to get the game winning points. It's cool. Like good on him. Way to kind of rescue what was otherwise just like a truly horrific performance. If I'm a Packers defender, man, I am losing sleep for a long time about how many opportunities they had to really seal this one, and they let it slip through their fingers. The interceptions by Love obviously weren't ideal in the second half, but the defense really, really had some chances to end this, and they did not. They let them hang around, and ultimately the 12-play, 69-yard drive. People are calling it Joe Montana-esque, Jay.
Boy, Lombardi, king of California.
Woo! But no, it's like, yeah, he had one clean drive. He made some, beautiful plays on that drive. They seal it with the McCaffrey touchdown. Like, that's what you want. You want your team to kind of pick you up when your quarterback's having an off day, and the Niners as a team did that. It was very impressive. So my confidence isn't really shaken in terms of getting involved with them against the Lions, I'll be honest.
Yep. We'll talk a little bit about the Lions game against Tampa in the context of that opener for the NFC title game. But for now, it's another Big Ten basketball doubleheader on Tuesday night. Nebraska tips things off at 6:30 p.m. Eastern when they host Ohio State. Then second-ranked Purdue takes on Michigan in the nightcap at 9 p.m. Check out both matchups exclusively on Peacock. All right, Lions, Niners. I think most spots had opened 7 and then was beaten down pretty quickly to 6.5. I think the Lions were super impressive today, given we're recording Sunday, against the Bucs. And I think it's a little bit concerning the ease with which Mayfield moved the ball down the field. And it was really the 2 interceptions that cost them the game. Now, on the other side, you could say that, well, it was kind of a bad matchup for Detroit in some ways, given that the Bucs have this awesome run defense and Detroit want to run the ball, and now they're going to go up against a Niners team that doesn't have a good run defense at all and looks pretty shaky on D, given that they're 2 real big tests. They got lit up by the Ravens, and then they got lit up by the Packers. At the same time, we kind of hoped that this line would be 6.5, and here it is. You're still confident in the Niners?
Yeah, I mean the key injury to follow is Deebo Samuel. He matters for this contest a small amount. I mean, this could be an IU game. I would be not surprised at all. You saw what Mike Evans just did to this defense. If you have an elite wide receiver one, he's going to hurt the Lions defense, period. End of story. And so it's coming. I think the Lions, we have seen them play a lot of high leverage games against some bad teams recently, and at home. And I guess my one takeaway of Lions Bucks was, we could send a note to Sean McVay. It is possible to convert a 4th and 14 against this Lions defense, yes. Because Baker Mayfield and the Bucks did it. And honestly, it was the key handicapping point for me for the Lions and the Bucks was the Gauff was going to be able to handle the blitz, and he did it well. And I think now you're up against a more complete defense. I think the running attack for the Lions is going to have a tougher time against this, the big bodies on the D line for the Niners are for real. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are for real. Like, this is going to be a much, much tougher test for them to have, kind of a consistent and efficient offense. And I think there's definitely scope here for, there's scope here for both of these teams to score points. But I've been kind of licking my chops at what Shanahan's got cooked up for a Lions defense that's just pretty devoid of like game-breaking coverage talent in the secondary.
Yep. I mean, there's just nothing there in the back end in terms of their corners. Like Sutton it's just been kind of revealed at this point. And the ease with which Baker was able to move the ball, I mean, outside of the turnovers, which were bad, Baker was, I thought, super impressive today. And you would suspect that the Niners are going to be even more so. And also, I mean, to your point, like we haven't seen Jared Goff outdoors in these playoffs yet. We haven't seen him on the road in these playoffs, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a different animal. I just don't think the defense just has any real ceiling. So yeah, I agree. I would guess that this closes 7, but we will see. Chiefs Ravens. It opened Ravens 3.5, quickly got beaten down, and now it looks like it's going to settle at Ravens -3 for now. Total is 45.5. Do you think this is the right line?
I was surprised that some of them shops taking some bigger limits offshore gave you a swing at 3.5 for the Chiefs at a not too crazy vig. 120 now. That's starting to get to the price point where people are going to pass, and it's, like you said, it's more like a flat 3 or closer to a flat 3. In the immediate aftermath of the Chiefs Bills game, I was like, "Man, shoot, sign me up. Let's go back to the well. Pat Mahomes a dog. What are we doing here, folks? Like, this should be closer to a pick 'em." He certainly has a heck of a lot more experience. The Chiefs as a team have a lot more experience in this type of setting. And so if you want to bet on just the idea of the Chiefs offense being the distinguishing unit here and being able to solve the Ravens defense, which many teams have solved this season, then I think your bet is pretty straightforward on the Chiefs. If you are concerned about the Chiefs defense and their propensity for giving up game-breaking plays on the ground, which I am now, considering how weak they were today against the Bills, then this is not great to go on the road against a Ravens team that has such a dynamic rushing attack and could be kind of fully healthy for the first time really in a long time. So pretty tough matchup here for the Chiefs defense all of a sudden, which means it really is going to come down to Mahomes being, Superman, putting on his cape and finding a way to get to 31 points against the Ravens defense to have a chance in this one. Total looks too low to me. 44.5 is about 4 points under what I would have expected. And ultimately, I think you could see a similar game state to what just materialized in Buffalo.
Yep. Looks like there is light rain forecast for Sunday in Baltimore at the moment, though nothing crazy, 10-mile-per-hour winds, so shouldn't be a huge factor. I think it's just very difficult to grapple with what Kansas City's offense has shown the past 2 weeks relative to the entire rest of the season, basically post week 7 or whenever they destroyed the Chargers, in that maybe the Dolphins just having no pass rushes whatsoever and just having to just blitz relentlessly and cover zero relentlessly. That just made them not viable, and maybe the Bills were just so banged up that their defense just wasn't viable at all. And now the Chiefs are just going to go and look like the unit that played like the Raiders and couldn't score, like very recently as well. It wasn't that Christmas, the day after Christmas. And whether that's just going to resurface against Baltimore. And then on the other side, you have the best rushing attack in football against what has all season been a really weak rushing defense and was very weak against Buffalo as well. So I don't think matchup-wise it's perhaps amazing for Kansas City, but there's just always the sneaking suspicion that perhaps the Ravens aren't that good, and perhaps Patrick Mahomes is really, really good. So I think 3. 3 makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think this is one of the games where, regardless of where you stake your side, you're going to be angry with yourself midday Sunday, right? It's like, man, Pat Mahomes is a dog. How did I let that slip through my fingers? Oh yeah, the Ravens are a juggernaut. How did I not see this coming? It's been evidence week after week after week after week for a month now. So it's there's case to be made for either side, particularly at 3. I think at 3.5, it's pretty obvious you're trying to find ways into a Chiefs bet. And we may get a flat 3.5 again this week if there's positive news on Humphrey and Andrews.
Yep. No, that's true. Yeah, personal positions aside, what the matchup to me that is by far the most compelling and what I want to see is San Francisco Baltimore again,
Of
because I want to see
course.
Purdy in the dome confronting those demons. I just think that would be magnificent theater.
No question. No question.
Speaking of,
Anything but Lions Ravens.
yeah, I don't have any interest in that. I will watch that game. I will certainly watch that Super
I'll
Bowl.
watch that game. I'll watch
but
that game.
that's not. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting, but I think we know how that ends for Jared Goff, the same way that it ended for Brock Purdy on Christmas night. All right. Well, speaking of great theater, Ohio State is looking to keep pace with the frontrunners in the Big Ten women's basketball standings, and they'll have a chance to do so on Thursday when they face Illinois. Watch the Buckeyes and Fighting Illini. I've never actually said that word out loud. Showdown at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Peacock. All right. Australian Open, a little reset on this. There's been some just constant chaos on the women's side. It's hard to know even what planet we're on anymore. The men's side, a little bit more chalky. Djokovic got himself right with a bit more of a regulation victory. Yannick Sinner is coming. What's your breakdown of this overall?
Yeah, I mean, the women's side is we're set up for a collision course, likely in the semifinals between the U.S. Open finalists Sabalenka and Coco Gauff. I don't think realistically there's another upset to be had on the bottom half of the draw, but who knows? This has been a crazy fortnight already. The top half of the draw is Zheng Qinwen's Toulouse. Our queen is almost ready to be crowned, make her first ever slam final, I hope. You've got Noskova and Ystremska through on the first quarter. That is the most unlikely first quarter matchup I could have wrapped my brain around. Not that Noskova, I didn't know she had this ceiling. I did not know Ystremska was going to be able to fight her way to this part of the stage, and I certainly did not think that players like Ostapenko and Vondrusova and Iga would all kind of fall victim. Rybakina. We have a lot of women who have crashed out of the top half of the draw. So this went from being an imbalanced draw at the start where all the good players were at the top, and now all those players have lost, and so the imbalance is on the bottom, which is an absolute mind pretzel. I think pricing is fair where you basically are looking at co-favorites between Gauff and Sabalenka. I would slightly lean Gauff just because number one, the head-to-head results for her are positive, particularly recently at the U.S. Open, and Sabalenka still does have semifinal demons that she needs to truly conquer to prove that she's got the her A game at that stage for whatever it's worth. Zheng is an interesting case because I've always thought has the potential to win a slam. I didn't think it was coming this week. And this early, really, and she's going to have a lot of support. She's obviously a lot of Chinese fans in Australia for this. So I'm excited to ride out some Zheng Qinwen. I like her price in the 9-1 range if you can find it. And ultimately, I think she's going to be able to give a test to whoever emerges from that war at the semifinals between Sabalenka and Coco.
Okay, I've always been an admirer of Zheng's work. Certainly seems like she has, the wealth of talent. It just hasn't really put it all together, and she's a little shaky in her last outing. But I mean, I think she's the most talented player in that half of the draw now. Though I suspect that, as we're recording, she's still got an extra match to play relative to Noskova. So I think that Noskova is probably just the most likely player to get through, just given that she is a match ahead at the moment and really should handle Ystremska. Anything on the men's side that not much has really changed, I guess?
Yeah, we're still waiting for the tournament to start.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I have Sinner in pocket. I liked what I've seen from him so far. He's coming through unscathed. He's not taking any damage. Djokovic finding some form last round against Manarino was a little, I wish a little bit more damage had happened in the earlier rounds, but not to be. So, his Sinner's going to have to do it himself. He's going to have to take out Djokovic. I think he can. I like the way Sinner's playing, just in general. And I worry, maybe if anything, does he have a letdown in the final if that's your semifinal and he wins? So, a lot still to be decided. I haven't really seen a ton of Alcaraz because he hasn't been in very many compelling matches. And just looking at his numbers, he looks like he's playing great, and he's probably going to win his quarter. He's got Kekmanovic tonight, and then takes on the winner of Zverev Nori, which I'm assuming will be Zverev. And I think the world will be cheering for Alcaraz against the supervillain Sasha Zverev in that quarterfinal. Medvedev looks likely to come through pretty cleanly in the third quarter right now. So, I mean, realistically, we could still end up with your top 4 seeds as your final 4. And I don't think anyone would be surprised. And I think ultimately there's not a bet to be had now if you don't already have some center in pocket. Actually, prices are probably still about the same. This is what I bet at pre-flop because, again, nothing has happened to really move the needle that much. Actually, it looks like he has come in a little bit. He's about plus 350.
Believe.
Yeah, people are starting to believe
young Yannick.
But considering that the most high leverage matches haven't been played, and that the most high leverage points in the most high leverage matches will be at the end, and he has kind of a knack for a little bit of lapse of mental fortitude in those moments, we still have a long way to go.
Indeed. All right, and so you've got some NBA for us to close out. What's on your ticket?
Yeah, NBA's been running good lately. I stole a cover in Phoenix tonight with the Suns against the Pacers, and three circled for tomorrow that I'm into. 2 that I already bet. 1 that I'm going to wait for. Probably actually going to pass. But huge rest advantages for Dallas hosting the Celtics. Dallas is 2.5-point dogs there. I like the dog. I'm kind of shocked that this market is open and is favoring Orlando against Cleveland. Cleveland, I think, is going to get a clean win against the Magic. Huge advantage for them in this contest. And then the last was Sacramento against the Kings. Sacramento against the Hawks. I think the Kings will light the beam. 8.5 points is probably squarely on my number, so I'm probably going to pass. But definitely going to get some Dallas and some Cavs in my life on Monday night.
Yep, lovely. Well, I'll give out one little NBA tidbit before we go as well. Victor Wembanyama this month in just over 24 minutes per game is averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds, and almost 4 blocks per game. And he has a minutes limit, and he's playing 24 minutes a game. That minutes limit is getting lifted 2 games from now. And then if he stays healthy, Rookie of the Year is over. Like, Chet Holmgren's not going to beat him. Wemby might average like 28, 14, and 4.5 blocks. Like, it's insane. Like, he's going to put up like borderline MVP numbers. Chet Holmgren's still like minus 200 in the market, thereabouts. Like, Wemby should be the clear favorite. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. And I think that will correct itself in due course.
I love it. Well, we thought they could get. I thought they could get 5 wins in their 7-game stretch. That's about done, and they only got 3. So they didn't quite meet their expectation. But the nugget about the minutes lifting is humongous for that market, and I'm surprised you can still get Wemby as a dog.
The other thing too is that, I mean, the thing with Chet was like, one is obviously the winning team factor, but then also that his advanced numbers were so much better than Wemby. Like, that gap, like the EPM gap is less than 1 now. Wemby's on, what are they, like 7 and 30, and he's a plus 3.4 EPM on like a fake team that hasn't been playing its real players for 75% of the season to date. Like, I just think that he is going to come home with such a wet sail. The only issue is that just the way that team has been screwing around, just waiting for like, oh, Victor Wembanyama is being rested for 6 weeks for no reason whatsoever. That's, to me, that's the concern, because I do not see how he loses with health.
Here, let me play a quick.
Numbers are going to be too gargantuan.
We'll play a quick game with you. Darko is my go-to for all-in-one numbers. Wemby's Darko right now is top what in the NBA?
20, 25.
He is currently number 6 of all players in Darko right now. Only behind Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Tatum, and Kawhi.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, he's 32nd in APM. So, yeah, I mean, he's everything as advertised. And when it's a close race, which I don't think Chet Holmgren's going to blow this one out by margin, and people who vote on this award have already come out and have talked about kind of the tide shifting to Wemby. if it is a close race, the tiebreak goes to the phenom, and not the guy who's very efficient on a 2 seed. It will go to the global phenom, is my suspicion anyway. And I have flip-flopped on this market about 7 times, but the past 2 weeks have been pretty solid on Wemby. So I think I might have arrived at the conclusion of my sentiments on Rookie of the Year, or I think that Wemby's just going to win so long as they don't screw around anymore with his minutes and he stays healthy. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, condolences to the Buffalo Bills. We'll see you tomorrow.